I am Milan Mewarn from Linwood, California. This is the evolution of gangster films. Gangster films. Definition. Used for fictional works telling a crime story, concentrating on the lawbreaker, utilizing his points of view, often portraying and glorifying his rise and fall. Biography's 1904 The Moonshiners is a one-reel silent pic, but is still considered a gangster film. But a more official beginning of the gangster genre was sparked by D.W. Griffith's The Musketeers of Pig Alley in 1912. This is also a silent film, but a lot longer. This film contains an actual gang, a boss. You can actually see where the other more known gangster films got their start. Although life depicts art, you can see how the gangsters provide a slick and manipulative image and maintain that for years to come. There were other great films of the silent film era, like The Regeneration in 1915 and Underworld 1927 by Joseph Van Sternberg. Approaching the 1930s, a lot of bootlegging was taking place. The prohibition was about to occur. A lot of the plots were taken from newspapers, and once again, life depicts art. The first 100% talking film was The Lights of New York, as seen here, directed by Byron Foy. This movie cost $23,000 to make, but grossed over $1 million. Sounds like a great investment to me. If you ever wonder where did the trend of the Tommy guns and double-breasted suits came from or started, well, in 1930, a movie directed by Mervyn LeRoy called Little Caesar could be thanked for this gangster film trend. In the 1940s, films became more darker and violent, and a lot of gangster films or crime films were considered film noirs. A good movie from that decade that I consider a gangster film is Raoul Walsh's 1949 White Heat, starring James Cagney. In the 1950s, movies like The Big Heat portrayed more of a mob slash organized crime perspective of the gangster genre. In 1967, Arthur Penn's Bonnie and Clyde was released. This movie, starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, was considered a landmark film for the new Hollywood era because it broke a few taboos of its time. It also had one of the most memorable endings in gangster film history. In the 1970s, a novel that was written by Mario Puzo was to become a classic gangster film to be called The Godfather, which starred Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. This film was one of the most greatest films in world history, and it paved the way for films like 1983's Scarface, directed by Brian De Palma, and 1990's Goodfellas. Life depicts art, and in the late 80s, early 90s, gangster films began its shift with movies like American Me and Colors, which were more West Coast orientated, based on the gangs and prisons of LA life. Well, that's my time, and this is the evolution of gangster films.